If you've ever felt like you were second best, like no matter how hard you try, you're never good enough. Like no matter how hard you work, it's never quite enough. This is for you. I've never had suicidal thoughts. I've never hurt myself, but I've spent years feeling like I didn't belong, like I wasn't good enough. And I know a lot of other men feel the same. You're not alone. When I was a boy in grade school, I can remember attending a program called Banana Splits. This was a program for the children of divorced parents. And you see, in the 80s and early 90s, the divorce rates were only starting to rise. And therefore, school-aged children, it was not as common. There were maybe 8 or 10 of us. And this represented a whole variety of grade levels. Now, as a teacher, I can look around and I see a ton of children with single parents. But back then, it was not very common. Additionally, I was diagnosed with what was then called ADD and put on medication. I had trouble regulating my emotions, staying focused, and I didn't know how to explain it. I just knew I didn't feel like the other kids. Now we call it ADHD, autism spectrum, anxiety, whatever else. Back then, we just kind of called it bad behavior. If this story resonates with you, then I want to welcome you to the Balance Blade. Now, as a young person, and even now, I'm always living, and I was always living on high alert. Always trying to read the room, but I wasn't good at reading the room, but I tried. And I was always expecting the worst. If someone was quiet, I thought they hated me. If I made a mistake, I thought it was the end. I lived like I was always one breath away from being rejected, and it still sometimes feels like that. And these patterns followed me into work, leadership, and even relationships. I wasn't broken. I was just reacting from wounds that no one saw. As men, this can be a hidden weight that we carry. There are a ton of resources to uplift children with ADHD and other people. But as men, we are already conditioned that we have to keep our emotions, we have to keep our mental health hidden from the rest of the world. And so it can really derail us. If you add unexpected work or pressure, we can explode. I can remember one time when I was teaching marching band in Arizona. We used to have something called academic eligibility, where students had to be achieving a certain grade in order to participate in the competitive element. Now, most people in the area where I live now in Illinois, most schools do this weekly. So students have a chance, if they miss competition one week, to get back in for the next. But in Arizona, you found out right about the middle of October and they were done for the season. And I can remember seeing other bands, especially those in lower income, particularly in the Hispanic areas, that just got decimated, went from 50 or 60 to like 20. Now, my band, it wasn't this dramatic, but we still lost some good people every year. And I remember feeling that this ruined everything and it was the end of the world. And people saw a temper. But the truth is, I was just exhausted mentally because it took so much more out of my brain to handle these situations than the average person. But here's the truth. Men are expected to not just regulate ourselves, but also to regulate the emotions of the people around us. And we get called cold when we shut down trying to survive it. As a music educator, I constantly saw what others had. Bigger programs, better parent groups, better feeder schools. Even when I got a great job, I told myself, it was the second best job. I was the second best teacher. I'm the second best man. And even when I won, I couldn't accept it. But the truth would be known years later. Nobody walks into a perfect program, and everything great was built by somebody. Nobody handed it to them. So why not me? Well, there were reasons. But I will say this. As an educator, the more student-focused I became, the more focused on relationships, the more focused on the people in my care and about caring about them as individuals, the more peace I felt. A big part of this for me in my teaching journey was going away from a competitive marching band and going into a situation where it was all about just trying to make them feel a certain way. And the only thing that they needed was a crowd reaction. And it was less about being the best, and it was more about being a builder. And the more whole I felt. It was less about proving and more about pouring it in. But I still wrestled with some self-worth. But I was starting to find it. But now, as a father, I see some of these characteristics in my children. I see them feeling the same way. I see them struggling with the same things that I did. I want to fix it for them so bad, but I know they have to walk it themselves, at least in some regard, if they're going to learn. But here's what I can do. I can be present. I can be the father I needed, and I can keep working on myself so they can see what healing looks like. Here's a message for men that are feeling alone. You are not broken. You are enough. And whatever you're feeling, however broken you think you are not the only one. This idea that everyone else has their act together and you're the only one struggling, it's a lie. Nobody has it all figured out. Nobody has their act together. But some of us have figured out how to keep going, how to ask for help, and how to stop living in silence. And we're here, and you can find us. I'm not the perfect man. I've got scars for days. I've got regrets, but I've also got purpose and breath, and I've got today. You're not broken. You're not second best, and you're still becoming. And becoming is messy. Becoming is brave. There's a great motivational speaker, comedian that I love, Steve Harvey, and he says that God is processing you. He says, quit tripping while you in the process. God is processing you. He's not through with you yet. If he was through with you, you would not wake up in the morning. So you have to wait and see how you come out on the other side. So keep going. You've got this. Stay sharp.